Well, we are heading towards the business end of the Women's Rugby World Cup, and the quarterfinals are done and dusted. England-Scotland in Bristol has just finished, so that's what we're talking about in this video. The Red Roses now 2 games away from a World Cup victory on home soil. Give me your views on this game. What did you make of the team performance? What did you make of some of those individual players? And I'll talk about Scotland as well. The context of where this team is in regards to this World Cup and the off-field stuff, I'll touch on that as well at the end of the video. So welcome back, comment down below, like the video, that just boosts it to as many rugby fans on YouTube as possible, and also subscribe to the channel so you do not miss a thing. It's amazing though, isn't it, of these major tournaments? On the one hand, you feel like loads has happened, we've had so many games and great moments, and on the other hand, you feel like it's going to be over in an absolute flash. I'm kind of somewhere in between those two things at the moment. But England get the victory, as they were expected to do, as they're expected to do when they come up against every single team. But I mean, the recent history between these teams is so one-sided. England have won the last 27 matches. The last Scotland victory was in 1999, which, I mean, in the context of men's rugby, that would be a different lifetime. In the context of women's rugby, that's even more the case. So England, the heavy favourites, they won comfortably as expected, but I still think Scotland have a huge amount to be proud of from that performance and from what they've done and what they've put forward in this World Cup. I'll get onto all of that. It was actually Scotland that had a great start, wasn't it? Those first 5 minutes where they kicked the penalty that Helena Nelson knocked over. Phases in the England 22, brilliant front foot start, got the 3 points, but then after that, it was all England. I thought England did really well to control the game and play the conditions much better. In particular, I think England's kicking game was much, much stronger. I thought they won that area and they just played the conditions better. I mean, it was torrential, wasn't it? I don't know if you can see behind me. Never quite comes across in video, but it's been so miserable here. It certainly looked like that was the case in Bristol. And England's kicking game, their set-piece game, just their overall control as they exerted. After Scotland went 3-0 up, it wasn't until the Rona Lloyd try right at the end that Scotland really looked like scoring any other points, which I think is credit to England. We often say, don't we, in these games where England are expected to win and win comfortably, how do you evaluate and assess their performances? And I think the big thing that I would give them a lot of credit for was just the overall control that they were able to exert and have throughout that game. I thought it was really impressive. And when you look at the England team, particularly with Holly Aitchison coming in at 10 and playing well, Helena Rowland obviously featuring in this game with the injury to Ellie Killdunn, the strength and depth that they have in this squad across multiple different positions, I think is really, really impressive. They have so many different players that they're able to call upon to do the job, and that's absolutely, I think, what they did in this match against the Scots. The thing we have to mention, though, as well, I suppose, from a Scotland point of view, it doesn't help, does it, when your line out and your set piece more generally, but in particular your line out does not function. I lost track of the amount of line outs on their own throw that they lost. They overthrew or England pinched it. And that was a pretty key area, I think, that led to England's control. If you don't have any set piece ball, particularly in a game that is this, or that is played in this sort of challenging conditions, then you are always going to be up against it. It's always going to be a pretty tall order to get a meaningful foothold in the game. But it was scrums as well. I mean, they gave away quite a few penalties at the scrum. The England scrum has looked pretty good in the World Cup generally. I know they've had times where they have been penalised, but England able to control the set piece. And this England forward pack, if you give them that sort of platform and that sort of chance to be dominant, then it's always going to be pretty tough. There are a couple of individual players that I wanted to mention for England. I feel like they've got so many good front rowers, don't they? Like Amy Cockayne has been brilliant and scores bags of tries. Lark Atkin-Davies has done so in this World Cup. Maud Muir, Sarah Byrne, Hannah Bottoman, so many different players. Kelsey Clifford, though, is a try-scoring machine at this World Cup. And her finish, actually, the one where she span kind of close to the post, span through contact to get over, was really impressive. So I wanted to give her a mention. And then the other one, actually, is Morwenna Talling, who I know got the Player of the Match award, which, on the one hand, I'm really glad about that. On the second hand, I was disappointed because I was thinking, I'm going to chat about her as an underrated, underappreciated cog in this Red Roses machine. And then she picks up the Player of the Match award, and it's like, we can't really say she's underrated and underappreciated if that's the case. But I do think that in this Red Roses team that is so packed full of stars, in that you could talk about Ellie Kildunn's the most obvious, but across the back line, you could chat about loads of them. In the forward pack, you could chat about Sadia Cabella or Alex Matthews, Zoe Aldcroft, all of the front row players that I've just mentioned. Abby Ward. I think Morwenna Talling is one that doesn't get the recognition that she necessarily deserves. And I think so consistently for England, she's excellent. I thought she was excellent here. And a lot of it's the unseen work. I think that's probably the reason, because she doesn't have the glitzy highlight reel that many players will have, particularly England players. But when you look at stuff like the amount of rucks she hits and just that kind of the ugly, like less glamorous side of the game, she's brilliant at that. She also scored the try today. She was great in the carry as well, which I think is why she got the player of the match, because she was carrying, she was getting through a lot of contact, she was making meters. Really, really good second row performance. So Morwenna Talling, I wanted to give her a mention because I thought she was excellent and deservedly got that award. Let's finish off by talking about Scotland though, because the context to this World Cup that the players themselves have spoken about but have wanted to play down because they've wanted to focus on the job at hand, which is winning rugby matches, has been massive uncertainty over their future. The contract situation with the SRU, players not knowing what the contract situation is going to be post this World Cup, Brian Eason, the head coach, departing as well. A lot of uncertainty, and I thought they have just should be so proud, and I don't mean that in a condescending kind of way, of what they have done and achieved and how they've played in this World Cup. First and foremost, I think their rugby has been excellent. It's been really entertaining. They have looked to play with pace and attack, which again, maybe the conditions today didn't particularly help with that. That performance against Wales in the first game was an absolute tone setter. It's the result that really, well actually, I was about to say it's the result that gets them to the quarter-final. It's not, because Wales lost to Fiji, so technically it's that result. But it was the game we all looked at to say whoever wins that game are most likely, we thought, going to get to a quarter-final. And they absolutely hammered Wales. I think they've been brilliant. And the only thing that I am left thinking is imagine what they could do with a union that properly backs them. And the SRU have recently announced a whole load of changes with Gregor Townsend's contract extension, the same for Franco Smith as well. And kind of the women's stuff they've left to say, oh, well, we'll sort this out in a bit. They need it sorted. They need more certainty. I think what we're seeing at this World Cup, with the example set by the Red Roses, look at what you can do if you properly back your women's programme. And hopefully that is what is going to happen. So England into the semi-finals, the 4 teams from the last World Cup that reached the semi-finals, the 4 dominant teams in the women's game, England, New Zealand, Canada, France. England will play France next Saturday in Bristol, where France came through a bit of a nail-biter against Ireland. Great game that at Sandy Park. So another game England will be expected to win, but France have been close to them in the Six Nations. Definitely it's going to be the biggest challenge that England face yet in this World Cup. In fact, from this point on, you are looking at matchups that, yes, England are going to be the favourites for, and perhaps the heavy favourites, but they are matchups where there feels like there is at least more of a possibility that they could be troubled. And I think that is really exciting. I think France will absolutely relish the prospect of rocking up at Ashton Gate next week and pulling off an almighty upset. Cannot wait for it. We'll be talking about it on the channel. Make sure you like the video, drop a comment down below, subscribe as well, and I'll see you in the next one.